Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the recap of E3 2017. We were not able to do individual podcasts of each press conference as there were time constraints and not being able to watch certain press conferences when they were live. So we weren't able to do that, but we are doing a full recap on everything that went down at E3. So we're going to go in order from press conference, starting with day one, which is EA. Neil, I'd like you to share your thoughts on EA.
EA's press conference was good. They did a good job, but compared to the other press conferences, it I really forgot about it really quickly. The biggest highlight for EA was Star Wars Battlefront 2, which looks very good. It looks better than the first one, and free DLC for that. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm also sort of excited, surprisingly, for their new Need for Speed because it reminds me a lot, like we said in our first podcast, it reminds me a lot of the Fast and Furious movies. It looks Hollywood, it looks crazy, so that looks like it's going to be interesting. And then of course Star Wars Battlefront 2, that's going to be a big improvement on the first game, so I'm excited. Obviously they had their sports games, which we don't care about. Maybe you do, but we're not going to cover those really. We already did in our first podcast. And there was one other thing I remember there, the little indie game that they showed called A Way Out. That looked really interesting. It was a co-op a couch co-op game. You play with your friend about two guys trying to escape from prison, and then once they get out of prison, they go on like this revenge story. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, it's it's probably the Prison Break type game that we've been waiting for, and it looks promising. Everything about it looks nice, and it's something interesting and something that I'm excited to see. And it's gonna be, I'm hoping it's gonna be good, but it looks amazing. So, um, I'm looking out for that. So, yeah.
I would as an overall rating of EA's press conference, I'd probably give it a C plus. Yeah, it had some highlights, but obviously they're still EA. Not quite there yet. They did a little too much talking. It was cringy. I think theirs was the most cringiest press conference. So I knock off points for that. So C plus from EA. Next, we will be moving on to Microsoft's press conference, which in my opinion was absolutely the best press conference at this E3. I thought it was amazing. The unveiling of the Xbox One X, all the games that they showed that are gonna have, the 4K on the Xbox One X. People are taking a lot of advantage of that power. We've heard from the developers they're really using it to the max, and they're really excited to see what they can do with the power of that box.
Yeah, they did talk about the Xbox One X, which I find is a ridiculous name. They should have just kept it at Xbox Scorpio. And Microsoft. They had a lot of interesting games and a lot of games. It was 45 games, right? And 22 or which are exclusive to Xbox, which is a lot of exclusives. And Microsoft, they did a good job promoting their games, especially Crackdown. Holy shit. I am hyped for that. Even though I don't have an Xbox, I am hyped for that.
So, just to name a few of the games, we have a list here of all the games exclusive and non-exclusive to Xbox that they showed during the E3 conference. We have Anthem, which is the last game that they showed at the press conference, which is EA's new game, you know, from BioWare, and that looks really good. It's like their answer to Destiny, because a lot of people didn't like Destiny, so Anthem looks really good. They showed Assassin's Creed Origins, which again takes advantage of that Xbox One X 4K. It looks really good. Code Vein, which is a Dark Souls-esque game with combat, but it's more anime. Crackdown 3, which is their big exclusive. It's going to be an Xbox One X launch title. It will be available for the original Xbox One and Xbox One S, the whole family, but it will be launching the same day as the Xbox One X. They showed off Dragon Ball Fighters, Forza Motorsport 7, which is running at 60 frames per second and 4K. We've got PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Life is Strange, Metro Exodus, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, Super Lucky's Tale, just tons and tons of games that they showed, exclusive and non-exclusive, and it really made me excited for Xbox again, showing that they're sort of back in the game, that they've shown that this is the next step. They've sort of redeemed themselves almost from the launch of the Xbox One back in 2013, and I think it's a big step for them.
Yeah, they did a lot to make up for from 2013 by having new titles and a lot of exclusives, which makes it um for people who are interested in those exclusives could actually go and get an Xbox and play those exclusives.
All right, so going from the highest point of E3 to the lowest point of E3, now we're going to be talking about Bethesda. Bethesda's, Bethesda's press conference was terrible.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I did not. I thought they were gonna do something like super, but I was let down. I was let down so bad. In fact, it was short too, which I was surprised. I was not expecting their press conference to be that short.
Yeah, I mean, it was just they went so fast and there wasn't a lot of new things really. They're they're milking Skyrim to the very last point that they can do it, and there's VR stuff, but like really, those are for old games. We've already seen it. Um, but I can say what I am excited for, which they waited for the last minutes, or the last few parts of their press conference, which wasn't very long, but they did show off the Evil Within 2, which it looks good. It's a horror game. It looks scary. It does look like it's going to be interesting, the story and everything. And then they showed off Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, which I'm really excited for because I played the first one. I actually 100% completed the first one. So that's a really good game for me, and I'm excited to see the second one come out. And that's both of those games are coming out in October. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I feel like playing over Evil Within 1 since I never played it, and since 2 is coming out, I think I might go ahead and play, and because I know it was a great horror game, everyone loved it, and I'm excited for Evil Within 2. For Wolfenstein 2, I never played the first one, so I'm not too excited for that, but it looks good, so I might look out for that one.
All right, so from the worst press conference to a surprisingly good press conference, we have Ubisoft, which I thought was going to be the cringiest one. I thought that was going to be pretty bad, but they did show off some good stuff. Starting off with their new Rabbids Mario crossover game, which is this sort of turn-based, um, like XCOM, that sort of turn-based strategy action game. It looks really interesting. It's going to be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, which is good for the Switch. They need their exclusives. They need their games. Um, I really can't say much more on that. It's just that it's a strange combination that almost, it seems like it works, and I'm happy to see those two coming together and making something good. People will obviously say it's sort of controversial. Those two shouldn't belong together, but I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that at all. When I saw that, I was like, isn't like the rabbits like gone? Because I really forgot about those rabbits, and I was like, what the fuck? They're doing this shit, and I was like, hmm. I wasn't excited for that. I was just confused. But if people who like XCOM, I think they're gonna enjoy this. But I'm not too excited for this at all. And the next thing that what continue?
I think it's just even if it won't be the best game ever, I think it's just sort of this interesting thing. I would have never expected these two to come together. So looking at it, it just seems sort of funny, and it looks like a well-made game. So I don't know. I probably won't pick it up personally myself, but it looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, it looks interesting. That's all. But continuing on, we also have the Crew 2. Excited for that. Um, Played the first one. I loved, kind of didn't love it, but I had a good time with it. And I'm excited for the Crew 2. Are you?
Um, I never did play the first one because the reviews and everything that I heard on it wasn't too great. It just seems sort of generic, but this game looks like it really expands on it. They've got You can drive around in cars, you can do off-roading vehicles, you can do motorbikes, boats, planes, stunt planes and stuff. It's all over. You can go from the ground up into the sky. You can switch between any vehicle you want at any time. It just seems really like a really big improvement on the first one, and it actually kind of made me, say, "Ooh, I might want to look out for that one when it comes out." I think in March of sometime in March. So I think that's going to be good. And then we got some more look at their new South Park game, South Park: The Fractured Butthole. Um, Brilliant title. I I don't really care too much about this title. Like I love South Park, the show. I think it's a hilarious show. I wasn't too interested in the first game. It had its own story and everything, but it just didn't seem like a game that I'd want to play. I did watch other people play it, thought it was funny, the writing was great, gameplay wasn't too great. This one does kind of expand on that and improve what was done in the first game, but again, I'd rather just watch the show probably than play the game. But that's just me.
Yeah, I'm not too excited for this game either because it's it's not for me. I should say. I like South Park, but um, I think the gameplay is type is not for me. I feel like I won't enjoy it, so it's not my cup of tea. But I can understand why some people are excited for it because the writing in the first one was pretty good. It had a good story in a way, and yeah, I think it's gonna do well.
And then the next game that they showed, which everyone's been waiting for ever since Assassin's Creed 4, with the big pirate, the ship battles and everything that were in the Assassin's Creed 4. That was the best part of that game. Everybody said it was the best part. It was their favorite part. They loved doing that. So now they're just taking that and making that into their own pirate combat game, which is called Skull and Bones, which is coming out later next year. Um, and again, it's a pirate combat game. You compete against another flag ship of pirates, and you compete to capture the best amount of gold. And whoever gets the most gold and escapes at the end of the game wins. It does look very nice, graphics wise, and I think the gameplay does look kind of interesting. Obviously, it's more of the pirate ship combat that we saw in Assassin's Creed 4, but I'm glad that they're finally putting that into their own game because that's what a lot of people have been asking for.
Yeah, I wasn't too I didn't play Assassin's Creed 4 because, it had a lot of issues and I didn't really want to go through that trouble, and I never played it, but since they because the gameplay of the ship battles looked good, so I'm excited for Skull and Bones because that type of battle I've been waiting for a game like that for a long time. So I could since they're making a game like that, I could finally have that experience of being on a ship battle like that. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, also a lot of pirate games this E3. Maybe not a lot, but Xbox has Sea of Thieves. Ubisoft has their own pirate game. I think there was another pirate game at some point. A lot of people going into the pirate thing. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's because of Pirates of the Caribbean now. Since that's there's a new movie for that. Probably that's why. I don't know.
It could be, or people just really like pirates. Yeah, and then they showed off some strange, almost Skylanders-esque game where you build a ship on the controller, and you can take that, put it in the game. You know how Skylanders does, where you put the pieces on the base or whatever, and it appears in the game. This game, you build your own ship, and you can put it in the game. I forgot what the name of the game was called, but the past 5 years. So
Yeah,
who knows how that will do.
I think it's the dumbest thing ever. To be honest, because I really don't want to be spending extra money on toys and stuff just to go build shit. I really don't want to do that. But I can understand why other people do it because they love to collect stuff, and I'm not that type of person. I'm not gonna go out and buy parts and stuff just to go build it in the game. I could just do that in real life with Legos. So no.
Yeah, that looks. Yeah, obviously it's their answer to Skylanders and Disney Infinity and what everyone else has already been doing for the past 5 years. So who knows how that will do? Yeah, and then the big thing that they had going for them this year, obviously, was Far Cry 5, and they did show off scripted. It was scripted gameplay, but it was gameplay. We got to see some of the action in the game and how that works. Um, all the people that you can call in. You've got the dog, you've got this sniper girl, you've got this guy who flies in on a plane, and then obviously you can bring in your friends to help you with whatever you're doing. Um, it's the stories about this Christian cult who are taking people in and trying to get them into their society, taking over the county or Hope County, Montana. It seems like a weird story, but hey, if they can pull it off, I think it'll be interesting. The gameplay looks all right. It is more Far Cry, but people love their Far Cry.
Yeah, I think they could pull it off because in the past they managed to make good games, and I'm pretty sure they could pull this off. And the whole story with the cult, it reminds me of this TV show called The Cult, and I think it's interesting and it's different, and it's at least it's not on another island at least, which is good because too much stuff on the island. What you had, the first few Far Cry games were on an island. Then you had Far Cry 3 on an island, Far Cry 4 on an island. So finally, they're changing the setting of it. So I'm interested to see what they have to do with all that.
And then this was the biggest surprise at Ubisoft's press conference. We got it was pre-rendered trailer, obviously CG trailer, not gameplay, but we got a look at Beyond Good and Evil 2, which people have been waiting for 15 years. And people were super excited to see that finally come on the stage. Ubisoft originally said, don't expect this to be here. It's not going to be on the stage. It's not going to be at E3. And then they just threw it at your face. They said, here's the trailer. So I never played the original because it was way back then. I wasn't interested in it back then. I believe it is backwards compatible on the Xbox One though, so who knows? I might look at it in the future, but it looks like a weird, interesting story. So
Yeah, I never heard of that game in my life until this year because I was like, what the fuck is this? And um, when I saw the trailer or whatever they had the pre-render shit, um, it was weird, but a good weird. I was like, what the fuck is this? It looks good. So I might just have to look back to the first one, see what it's all about because this is the first time I'm hearing about this game.
yeah, a lot of people love the original still, and I'm I'm glad that the second one's finally coming out because it's been so long. So I may not play it ever, but I'm happy to finally see it come out. That was Ubisoft's press conference. We're gonna move on to Sony's, which first off, I want to mention before we get into the actual press conference, I want to talk about the pre-show stuff because they showed a lot of new games that are coming out in the pre-show that they could have shown during their press conference that they just decided not to. Um, they put in Super Hot VR. They put in Hidden Agenda. There's a new Tropico game coming out. They showed Crash Bandicoot. Undertale's coming to the PS4 and the PS Vita. Nino Kuni 2 and Knack 2. They showed off all of those games in the pre-show. I think they gave release dates to some games, and they just decided not to put them into the main press conference, which I thought was stupid.
I don't know. I think the only reason they did that is just to make more space for their other games. That's probably why they did that. So I don't know. I think they should have kept it or put it in their conference instead of the pre-show.
Yeah. So let's talk about everything that they showed at the Sony press conference. Let's start off with the exclusives because they showed off a lot of them. Let's talk about the big one, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, they showed at the very end of the conference, and I think that that game looks great. It plays a lot like obviously Batman Arkham, those games, the combat and the style, but obviously they have their own take on it. Spider-Man, they've got the quips, they've got the webbing, the combat looks really fluid, the gameplay looks really good, the swinging looks really nice. I'm happy they finally got the swinging down. Um, I think it looks like a really solid game.
Yeah, when I saw the gameplay, I was surprised. It looked amazing. It looks fantastic, especially the combat. The fighting is just so good, and I kind of feel like it took them a while to get a Spider-Man game right because Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 they weren't that great, but this looks promising and hopefully they do get it right this time around because now, if they don't get it right, then it's going to be another Spider-Man game that flopped.
Yeah, there's a lot of Spider-Man games that suck, unfortunately. Most of the Spider-Man games out there, they suck really bad because they don't understand the fundamental elements of Spider-Man and what made a good Spider-Man game. Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 back on the original Xbox in like 2003, those were the best Spider-Man games, and they haven't made a good one or one as good as that as those two since, which is really sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. I want to just talk about this like just right now because this game. I was waiting for it forever to be on PlayStation, and it's a Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It took forever for them to bring this game over to a console because Monster Hunter was forever on the 3DS, and now they're finally gonna do it.
What I'm really happy about is that this isn't just coming to PS4. I found this out after the pre-show or after the press conference. Monster Hunter is coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which immediately got me excited because this game looked fantastic. I didn't understand what it was as I was watching the trailer because I haven't played Monster Hunter games. I knew they existed, but I hadn't played them because they weren't really my style. But this one looks great. It looks more westernized. It doesn't look as, JRPG as the other ones do. I think it looks great. The combat and all the monsters and stuff. And it's Monster Hunter World. It is a more open world type of thing you can explore, and I think it looks great. I can't wait for that to come out.
Me too. And one thing that interests me the most about it, or like, because there's this Monster Hunter online game in, I think it's in Japan, and that's what it reminds me of. If it's going to be open world, then it kind of reminds me of that game, because Monster Hunter Online is open world, and this is probably just they look the same, and I was just like, this is interesting, because I want to play a Monster Hunter Online game, but you know, Monster Hunter World, I'm excited for that because I'm a big Monster Hunter fan. I've been playing that game since forever, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I want to talk about one game that was sort of I think the biggest surprise for me this year at their press conference. It was like 30 seconds long, and the game's already been out for a very long time, but it was the Shadow of the Colossus remaster.
I never played that game, but that interested me too. I was like, wow, they're bringing it back now, and it's good. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's interesting to see them bring that game back.
Well, what's also interesting is that they already have a remaster of this game. The original came out on the PS2, and then they remastered it, quote unquote, on the PS3. So if you have a PS3 and you want to go get a remastered version of Shadow of Colossus right now and play that game, you can. But they're also bringing it to the PS4, and it looks even better. So I think that that's great because that's regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. So to bring that to the PS4, I think it's a really good idea.
I kind of feel like it's lazy because that's another remastered. I feel like they should continue with it instead of just remastering it, because they should make continue with the story for it, because I'm tired of these games getting remastered. I want something new. I don't want the same thing just remastered.
Yeah, yeah, you could also make that argument. I mean, the same people that did Shadow of Colossus, they also did The Last Guardian. People really like that game, so maybe they'll be doing something new. Maybe this is a sign saying, "Hey, here's the remaster. Now we're gonna do something new." Maybe they'll unveil something, you know. Now, one of the other really big games, other than Spider-Man, that people were really looking forward to seeing more of this year was the new God of War, and they did show off another trailer with some gameplay and stuff, but I think it looks like a big improvement on the God of War series because I played God of War 1, 2, and 3 um, on the PlayStation 3, and they had their remastered the collection. I played all those games, and then every game that came out after that was just more of that, more of the same combat style. It didn't seem like much changed. And then this game comes along. It's just titled God of War. It's from a third. Obviously, everything was from a third person perspective, but this is more close up. Yeah, it seems like a more modern game with a more modern combat style. They've ditched the crazy aspect of it. Flinging these wild swords with chains around, and it just seems like a really big improvement on the God of War series and the story with the son, his new son. Seems like it's going to be interesting. He's going to teach him, how to fight, how to hunt, how to become basically become a man, like he is, how to become a warrior. Um, but I think the gameplay looks solid, the story sounds interesting, and the game looks really good. So I'm glad that they are doing this with the series.
Yeah, it's something different, but I think what made the God of War series so good was its over dramatic fight scenes and stuff like that. The whole crazy ass swinging blades and shit. That's what made God of War. And this new game, I'm not too impressed with it, to be honest. It's I feel it's different. Different is good, but I kind of feel like it's not gonna be the same as the original. Obviously, it's not meant to be the same as the original, but it's not gonna. I feel like for me, it's not gonna have that same impact as the original did. But I am interested to see the whole story between him and his son. Um, I'm interested in seeing that, but yeah, I'm not really digging the new style, but hopefully once I do play it, it grows on me. But at the moment, I'm not too keen on that. I don't like it much.
Well, what I think is interesting is that the obviously the original games, they didn't take themselves too seriously, which I guess a lot of people liked. I kind of like that, this over the top style, crazy murderous game, and you can tell they didn't take themselves seriously because I think in almost every game there was a sex mini game where you had to push different buttons to please women. So you could tell they didn't take themselves too seriously, but they still had a story about the gods and whatnot. But it was still over the top, and this one looks like it's a little bit more calmed down. This one looks like it actually has more focus, and I'm still kind of interested in it, even though I'm not going to be able to play it.
Yeah, another big thing that happened at the Sony was Call of Duty 2 World War Two multiplayer gameplay. It looked great. It looked I feel like it's the same old thing but it's just different, but it does look great and I'm not excited for it at all, but it does look good. That's all.
And then you have me on the other hand. I'm interested in this because Call of Duty World War II, it is a sort of a return to roots. You know, it is a return to the old Call of Duty, which is what I liked, which is what I grew up with. Call of Duty 2, 3, World at War, all those games I really liked them, and this one obviously is a return to that, and I'm glad it looks good. Even though it was just we already got a single player trailer, and this one was more multiplayer. It looks brutal. I think it sort of is true to that World War II style. It is brutal. It was not fun. War is obviously hell, and I think it looks really interesting. We'll have to see more when that comes out later this year in November.
Yeah. It's probably going to have supply drops in it too. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe not.
Maybe they've finally learned after Infinite Warfare not to pull another stunt like that. I'm hoping. I'm just hoping. Um, Next game we're going to talk about, we actually have two more exclusives that I want to touch on, and then one more game that they showed at their press conference. One I want to talk about is Days Gone, which is that new zombie game, and this one doesn't interest me. It doesn't seem like it's anything special. It just seems like more zombies.
Yeah, I'm not excited for that either. It's another fucking zombie game. I know, yeah, the story could be good and all that shit, but I'm tired of all these zombie games because you have State of Decay 2, and then now you have this other game, Days Gone. It's like, really another zombie game? Like, no. I'm just I'm not getting tired of them, but well, kind of, but I hate having um all these zombie games. Like they could have. I feel like they should do a post-apocalyptic type game, but without zombies, but and have it have something to do with you know um it's like a war went on and now we're in this crisis, and instead of just doing zombies, zombie this, zombie that, like they need to do something different with like a post-apocalyptic.
I think that's why people like State of Decay and why they're excited for State of Decay 2 because it's not just another story-driven zombie game. You know, Days Gone is obviously a story-driven zombie game. You've got this group of people that are trying to survive. There's going to be a good ending to the game. And State of Decay 2 and State of Decay in general, that series, is a permadeath survival game, and that's why people like it. And State of Decay 2 is also bringing in co-op. They're bringing in multiplayer so you can interact with other people and you can try and survive together in this world. And if you die, you're dead. And that's why people like that game. And this is why we don't want games like The Day Is Gone because it's those types of games that aren't doing anything different with the series that are getting old. But people that do something new with it, they are more successful.
Yeah, I think the only reason they're making this game is because The Last of Us, it did well, and it was a great game, had a great story, and I feel like that's why they're doing Days Gone, because that did Last of Us did so well. So I feel like they shouldn't have made this game. I'm not gonna say it's not good, but it's just basically another zombie game with a happy ending, I'm assuming. So,
Yeah. Another exclusive that they showed off that interested me last year was Detroit Become Human, which is a choice-based game in the lines of Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. I believe it's made by the same guy. And this one looks a lot better than his last game, which was Beyond Two Souls. I hated that game. This one looks a lot more in-depth and interesting. The story and everything. I think it looks good. We haven't seen gameplay yet. This was sort of gameplay, but mostly cutscenes and scripted stuff. So they need to show off more gameplay. They need to show off what are the choices that you can make, what are the things that you can do in the game, and then I'll kind of be more interested in it. But right now, I think it's an interesting little game, an interesting interactive story game.
yeah, when I first saw that, I was confused. I was like, "What is this game?" And personally, I'm not too excited for this one either. I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna play it when it comes out. So this one is just gonna fly under my radar for now.
All right, and then the final game that we're going to talk about that they showed was Destiny 2. This one, I I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I think it's gonna I think it's gonna be a failure because Destiny just disappointed so many people. I mean, they expanded on it and improved it with the expansions like the Taken King and everything like that, but Destiny 2 just doesn't seem like it's gonna be anything different. I'm more interested in Anthem, which is what EA showed at Microsoft press conference. And a lot of people are already more interested in Anthem than they are Destiny 2. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm more interested in Anthem too, because I just feel like Destiny is not gonna do well, but who knows? It might do well, but I have a gut feeling it might not do as well because of the first one. Um, a lot of people said it was crap, and I never played the first one. because I just didn't feel like playing it because I felt it was like a Halo game, so I didn't play it. And yeah, they did fix it with the DLCs, but I just don't feel like Destiny 2 is gonna be great. I feel like it's gonna be the same thing.
All right, now we're gonna talk about the last press conference of E3, and that was Nintendo. They did their, they have their Nintendo Direct, which is a 25-minute show of all the games that they're making and that are coming out, and then they do the Treehouse. We're not gonna talk about the Treehouse. I will mention one or two things that they mentioned in the Treehouse, but we're not gonna cover that in general. So let's start with some of the games that they talked about in Nintendo, which was entirely about the Switch, which I think it was a good thing to mainly focus on the Switch because obviously it's a new console. They need to show people what's coming. They need to show that there's going to be games for it, and they did show some interesting games. And one of those big games that we didn't get trailer for or any gameplay. But the biggest surprise was Metroid Prime 4, which really made a lot of people happy because me, myself, I played the original Metroid Prime on the GameCube way back in the day, and I really enjoyed that game. I've sadly never played 2 or 3, so I will have to go back and play those. But Metroid Prime 4, we just got the title. There was Metroid Prime 4, and then they said it was in development. So who knows when that's coming out? Who knows what it looks like or what it's going to be? But hey, a new Metroid Prime game.
Yeah, that game didn't surprise me, but the game that surprised me the most, and I was surprised it didn't come out when the Switch was announced. And the game is Pokemon, because I know how Nintendo, Pokemon is um on almost every Nintendo thing ever. It was on the N64, the DS, the 3DS, and I was surprised they didn't make a Pokemon game for the Switch when it came out. But when they announced it, um, I was surprised.
Yeah, I think one of the big not announcement but surprise for me was the fact that Rocket League is coming to the Switch, which I think is a perfect game to have on that console, to be able to play that game, such a great game, be able to take it anywhere with you. I think that was a really good choice on them because Rocket League is obviously a really popular game, a really solid game, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy their time with that on the Switch, being able to take that wherever they want.
Yeah, I was surprised that it didn't come out before because I feel that's the perfect game to go on the Switch. It's because you could easily do two players and stuff on the Switch, and I was surprised that it didn't come out for the Switch, but now it is coming to the Switch, and that's good.
Another surprise for me, which we didn't mention before, we talked about Metro before, Metroid Prime 4, but what I wanted to mention also was they talked about this during the Treehouse. They didn't put this in the actual briefing, which was a Metroid Prime, not a Metroid Prime, but a Metroid 2 remake for the 3DS. The original Metroid 2, the pixelated 2D side scroller. They're remaking it for the 3DS, and it looks really good. And that was and also another surprise. So it looks like Nintendo's finally bringing people the Metroid that they want, because they've been treating the Metroid franchise sort of like shit over the past few years. So I'm good that they're finally bringing it back in full force. They're bringing people the Metroid that they wanted. The people have been asking for it for a long time. So I'm glad to see that they're finally doing that.
Yeah, I feel like they forgot about it, like, and they they didn't do anything about it. They just forgot that it's there, and now they're making use of the whole Metro thing. So it's good. It's good that we're finally getting some new stuff for Metro. I'm excited for that.
Another game that I want to touch on, actually two games that I want to touch on are Kirby and Yoshi, which don't have names. They're just simply titled Kirby and Yoshi, which are coming out on the Nintendo Switch later, um, or early 2018. Um, the Kirby game looks like a return to Kirby formula, just a regular Kirby game. It looks nice. It looks like the gameplay is smooth, so that's going to be interesting for Kirby fans. And one that I'm actually looking forward to is their new Yoshi game, which looks really creative. It looks like a really nice idea for Yoshi. They've been doing a lot of good things with the Yoshi franchise. They had Woolly's or Yoshi's Woolly World. They had that on the Wii U, and then they ported it over to the 3DS. And now they're doing this what looks like craft. They've got the sort of crafty style, and you can flip the world around and change your perspective and stuff, and find secrets and go in different parts of the level. I think that looks like a really interesting concept. That's coming out in 2018.
Yeah, um, I'm not too excited for those. The only reason why I'm not too excited for those is because when when they announced it, I thought, when they announced Kirby, I thought, oh, it's gonna be just the old Kirby type games, which I really they're good games, but they're I don't it's not my cup of tea, but I feel like it's good. It's coming to the Switch, and the Switch needs those kind of games, and I think it will look great on the Switch. Those two games.
Uh, One more game that I want to touch on that they showed during their briefing. Obviously, there was some more games, but one of the big ones that I want to talk about that's coming out later this year, I think in October, is obviously Super Mario Odyssey, and I'm still skeptical on that. I don't know how I don't know how to feel about that. My brain sort of tells me to be cautious about that because it looks beautiful. The gameplay looks smooth. They've got a lot of interesting concepts that are going for the game, but I don't know. Part of me just looks at it and says, I don't know yet, you know?
Yeah, I'm still skeptical about it too because it does look good, but I just don't know how well it's gonna work.
Because we haven't had a Mario game like this since Super Mario Sunshine. This is continuing that those span of the games. They had Super Mario 64, then Super Mario Sunshine, and this is the next game in that sort of series that they did. Um, and I'm kind of skeptical, like I said. Um, they did show off a lot of gameplay though in the treehouse. They did show off the gameplay mechanics and what you can do and where you can go and the different things that you can do in the game. And it does look sort of solid, but I'm still waiting to see more. I think I might wait till it comes out to finally make a decision on whether or not I'm actually excited for the game or not.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'm gonna wait a few months after it comes out and see like videos of it before I actually go get it. Cause yeah, I'm just gonna wait those months because I'm not gonna get it right away because I'm not too sure if it's gonna be good.
All right, so that's going to do it for our E3 2017 wrap up podcast. I hope you enjoyed us talking about the games and our thoughts on each press conference. And we can't wait for E3 next year, 2018. And obviously, we can't wait for all the games that were announced this E3 to come out so that we can actually play them later this year and early 2018. So I hope you have a good night, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching this. and stay tuned for upcoming content. We'll be doing a podcast anytime soon, so stay tuned for that, and we will see you all later.